Hey Vikings! I wanted to make an all-inclusive video about everything in the Sea of Valheim. My other video with rafting and boating controls was incredibly popular, so I felt like this was a topic that a lot of people would enjoy. As a warning, this video is going to be a little different because I will throw in spoilers. I'm covering everything there is in the sea. Officially, there are three types of water vehicles in Valheim: the raft, the carve, and the longship. If you progress normally through the game, they should appear to you to build in that order as you unlock different materials. The process of creating all three is exactly the same. You set a crafting bench next to the shore, and then you have the materials in hand. You go ahead and create it from your inventory, just like you would any other building item. Depending on your world and your needs, you may or may not have ever even used the raft or needed to. It really depends on your situation. But you can craft a raft for just 20 wood, 6 leather scraps, and 6 resin. However, not long after creating and using the raft for the first time, you'll notice you truly do get what you pay for. Being the easiest water vehicle to access, it has the lowest hit points at only 300 hit points, it travels the slowest even if the wind is incredibly intense, and it has no storage to hold anything, so you have to carry everything in your inventory with you. I would say the most common use case scenarios for a raft like this is if you absolutely need to get to a different continent and you seem to be trapped without access to a better ship, or maybe a corpse run type of scenario. I don't know of any Vikings that would use this as their daily driver. When you've reached the Black Forest and you've entered the Bronze Age, you have access to bronze nails, and you'll also have access to the carve, as long as you first found fine wood. If you still haven't accessed fine wood at this point, check out my other video here where I'll show you how to get to it a little bit faster in the game. Anyway, the carve over the raft is a huge improvement. You have access to some storage, so 4 separate slots where you can store items as you travel, and you actually have some speed with this thing. They can go up to 24.5 kilometers an hour. Finally, and most expensively, we have the longship. At 100 iron nails, it is not cheap to build one of these. You also need 40 fine wood and 40 ancient bark, which comes from the swamp, mind you, so it's a little dangerous to gather. But once you have it together, the longship is absolutely amazing. It can take a serious beating with 1,000 hit points, and it also has 18 storage slots. So when you really need to move a huge stack of metal from one continent to another, there's really no better option. And with a top speed of 33.5 kilometers an hour, it's definitely the fastest vehicle in the game. Regardless of the type of ship, all of them have a rudder location, the exact same control setup, just different speeds depending on the wind. It should also be noted that each of the ships has different locations where other players can hold fast, but there is no limit to the amount of players that can actually hold on to the hold fast location right now, so the amount of seats in the ship doesn't necessarily matter at this point. When it comes to controlling ships in Valheim, it's a complicated system, but it's easier if you first understand paddling. When you're moving your ship in reverse, or you're moving at just the first level of acceleration, you're actually not using the sail. Your Vikings are actually paddling your vehicle, so it doesn't matter what direction the wind is moving. This is the mode you want to use for turning your ship around or parking it, generally that type of stuff. Obviously, you could use it to simply go in the direction you want if the wind is blowing against you. It's just going to take a long time to get there, regardless of what ship you're using. When you use the second level of acceleration, or the third level, you'll see the sail drop, and you'll notice the wind will move the sails. You'll also want to pay attention to the direction indicator of the wind in the upper right to see which direction it's pushing you. The missing piece of the pie indicates where wind will not affect your sails, and the darker area behind the ship is where wind is weaker. And yes, this does mean that a crosswind is more effective than a direct tailwind. So, while there's not a lot you can do about the wind, it is an important consideration. The weather the game throws at you will affect the time it takes to travel from one location to another, and you can't always predict exactly how long it'll be. I think between both of my videos I've been pretty inclusive about all the controls of a ship, but I do want to mention that slowing down is a wise idea when it comes to parking. The turning radius gets a little worse as the ships get better and better, and you'll notice driving a longship is kind of an acquired taste. I can't really make a guide to explain how to turn the vehicle, you kind of have to figure that part out, but once you do, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's just awkward. And speaking of awkward, how about that moment where the game just simply decides that your ship was too good for this world? Bugs have taken out quite a few of my parked ships in this game, so when that does happen, just know that when a ship gets destroyed, all of the materials will still be right there. Unfortunately, the Carve and the Longship both require nails made of metal, which may or may not be in reach. So, in the event that this happens to you, speaking from experience, here are the spawn commands for both bronze nails and iron nails in the event you're able to recover everything except the nails. I will note that the times that I've seen this bug happen personally, it's been just after I've portaled in and the ship wasn't far away. You can immediately hear it flip upside down and it's underwater. If you leave your boat along shore, especially just next to a crafting bench, there is a high probability that enemies may just come along and destroy it as well, so you may want to keep an eye out to protect it. But now that we know that the boat will be completely in our inventory, as long as we can gather everything up, we can use that to our advantage. Viking longships were made for landing. If you ram your ship directly into the ground, and then immediately destroy it with your sword, gather up all of the materials and take it with you. You can always make a new workbench and post it down again, and it'll be 100%. I do want to note that I mentioned using the sword because you're not able to just simply destroy the boat with the hammer like most built objects. And I also wanted to make sure everyone fully understands what a ship is like being destroyed as we get into the next subject, the dangers of the sea. If I'm being totally transparent with you, the biggest danger in the sea is rocks. Be careful of rocks. They will damage your ship more often than anything else. But you won't see rocks when you head out into the ocean. The ocean is a biome where there's no land at all, so it's kind of the space between worlds. And to be honest, if you're a Viking going out to sea for the first time, when you first hit the ocean biome and lose sight of land, it's a little terrifying and kind of amazing. And it will give you very little solace to know that you are not alone out there, Viking. There are sea serpents down in the water with you. If you happen to be in a raft the very first time you meet a sea serpent, you'll die. Unless you're in a longship, there's really no way to outrun one of these, but you could fight it off. Firing off a number of arrows will get it to run away. Assuming a solo player in a Carve with a fine wood bow came across one of these, if he was quick on the draw, he could potentially survive. Once you've reached the point where you've got a longship and iron weapons, these no longer pose much of a threat, as long as you pay attention while you're driving. When you manage to kill one, they drop an immense amount of meat and scales, but if you want to collect everything, you're going to need a harpoon. If you don't have one of those yet, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for the next part as we talk about leviathans. I probably shouldn't have made these sound in any way dramatic because they're really kind of just big floating rock things. They are actually called leviathans, and supposedly they're alive, but really they function like islands. You'll see them in your ship, and you approach them, you'll be able to mine barnacles on the top of them, but keep an eye out because they will start to slowly sink under the water. There is apparently a 10% chance whenever you mine one of these barnacles that it's going to trigger the leviathan to start to go underwater and try to get away from you. Little fun fact for you about the ocean biome, if you ever try to swim in it, you'll die. The biome seems to drain your stamina a lot faster than swimming in any other biome, so you need to very quickly get back to your vehicle. As it stands right now, the chitin that you get from mining these barnacles is kind of limited in what you can use it for. You can use it to make yourself the abyssal harpoon, which is the primary use for it. You can also make a knife called the abyssal razor. So, until they add more recipes to the game that require chitin, there's no need to really harvest a ton of leviathans out there as you see them. Whew! I think this is it. I think this is my magnum opus in terms of Valheim seafaring videos. This, I think, covers everything that is in the game currently. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel. You guys have made my YouTube experience so far extremely positive. I'm loving the likes and comments. Definitely keep them coming. And I'm happy to be providing a service that you guys seem to enjoy. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time, Vikings.